Hi everybody, I'm here to present the experience we had last year with Photovoice in the course Society, Family and Education. This video presentation is intended to be the first phase of the Teaching Innovative Project Mainstreaming Sexual and Gender-Related Violence Sensibility into University Course through Photovoice Experience. My name is Barbara Viglia and I work in the URV, the Universitat Rovira i Virgili. I would like to start with some information about the course and the people, the students, the characteristics of the students. We are talking of a first-year course that lasts all academic year for 4 years a week. It's a course whose topic is very wide, and it goes from the history of education and pedagogy to sociology of educational and educational research. It is divided in 2 semesters, each one have a separate teacher, and for each semester we have different activity of evaluation, as you can see in the table in these slides. Most of the students are between 18 and 21 years old, and they mostly come from secondary school. Some of them, nonetheless, around a third of them, come from a professionalizing course of technician in infant education. The social background of students is various, but most of them come from small villages that are around the university, and most of them still live with their parents and have a part-time job. The experience with Photovoice was in the second semester that have these 4 general topics that are multicultural and intercultural education, feminist and queer pedagogy, co-education, and research in education. The activity we organized around Photovoice were related with the research in education. In fact, Photovoice was intended to be as a technique that they can learn and use in their future to do research in school. The logic of the evaluation related with this activity was the logic of the group activity that we have in the second semester. So students have some practice in classrooms, and in the group they have to organize some, they have to follow with the activity at home and then realize some reflexive essay in order to evaluate the learning with this activity. The class was composed by 49 people. 30 of them do alternative evaluation, so they didn't do this experience. And with the rest of them, we split them in 2 different groups to learn about the 2 different techniques and then to share their learning with each other. This technique were the auto-narrative and Photovoice. The Photovoice was followed by 19 students divided in 3 different groups, each of them of 6 or 7 persons. The logic of this experience was related with the project we have Segrevuni that want to visibilize gender-related violence within the university and also being able to measure them. But we were not working on the measuring part, but with the sensibilization and visibilization of gender-related violence, also because we believe that the school, as future school teacher, it's very important for them to learn how to identify gender-related violence starting from their own experience. So there was a double aim or double objective in this activity. One was a learning, a content learning from a self-reflection, and the other was related with the research education part to learn a technique, as it was mentioned before. So we organize the Photovoice experience around 5 or 6 steps. I'm not sure how we can include the sixth one as part of the experience, or because it's evaluation of the students, we have to consider it outside. This is one of the questions I still have, and I'm not sure. Generally speaking, we use 10.5 hours in class for the experience, and then the student had to work outside the classroom. All the experience were organized around 3 weeks, plus 1 if we also consider the work that they have to do for the evaluation. Let's see more in detail what this step-by-step of the Photovoice experience was organized. The first step was introduction of theory. As I explained before, the course was online, okay? So we organized most of the class in some asynchronous section in which students have to visualize video and learn from the video presentation we made for them. So the first part was the introduction, a video introduction to research in education. That was around an hour. And then we have other 2 video, smaller ones, on theory and example of Photovoice. So all the students have to see this by themselves and try to understand the technique and the research in education in general. Okay. After that, we make 90 minutes of debates on Photovoice and on the other techniques, in which students can, from what they have learned and from the question that they raise in looking in the video, they can ask to us how all the doubts that they still have. Okay. All this, as you can see, the yellow background in the slides, it means that they were realized with the whole students group. Then we split the groups in 2. Half of the students go to work in the Photovoice and the other half go to work on self-narrative. Now I'm going to present just what we do with the Photovoice people. So we have a 45 minutes presentation of what they need to do during their work with the Photovoice to present the activity and to debate more in detail of the specific doubt that they can have. So then we decide that even if our framework was gender-related violence, we didn't give them specific issue on what to work. So we wanted them to define it by themselves. For this reason, we split the group in three virtual rooms, and we let the students work between themselves in these small groups, like 6 or 7 people, in order to decide specific topic. I was going around individual classroom to help them to define the objective of their photonarrative. So the second part was, once they have decided what was the topic of their photonarrative, they have to realize this photonarrative. This is a work that they do individually and not in their self-learning time, okay, not during the class. So each of them prepare and share an individual photo narrative. And they share it in the blog that was in the Moodle, but they share it just with the people of their small group. So they were just between the 6 or 7 of them that they can see the picture, okay, and the story. Plus, they upload it in a Jamboree that I have prepared for each separate group. They have 5 days in order to think and reflect on which picture they want to share, which story they want to share, and then they have to share it. After this, I asked to everybody to look at the picture of the story of the Photovoice presented by the person in their own group. And they have to comment on a forum, again, separate forum just for the people of the group, starting from this question that you can see in order to interpret or make sense of this picture and relate it with their own story. After that, they have two days in order to make some comments. So what's happened with this first step of the experience? I believe, or I feel, or I understand that participants seems to be committed in general with the task, and especially girl students were particularly involved in it. Everybody realized the task in time and comment on other students' photo voice and participates in the debates. When we work in the small groups, they have some difficulty in order to define a specific topic to be approached with the photo voice. My feeling was that they were struggling because they thought that it was an academic task. So, for example, some of them want to do the representation of gender violence through history, or gender violence experience in other country. So I try to situate themselves and make them understand that the photo voice is a technique that is particularly useful for working from their own experience or experience that are closely related to them. And with this, the 3 groups were able to define a topic. Nonetheless, 2 groups defined a topic that were more specific, and one defined a topic that was the typology of violence, so more theoretical. Okay, the fact was that this group was the only group that have cis men in between them. There were 4 cis men and 2 women. Okay, and this group have a very different form of work than other groups. For example, all the 4 cis men presented a picture from internet instead of presenting a picture that they create by themselves. Also, when the debates that they create were more related to, we already know what is gender violence and we want to categorize them according with theory, but without entering too much in their own experience. So I have 2 different elements that from these 2 steps I would like to debate and I would like to evaluate more. The first one is if it could be useful to offer some more example of specific topic that could or could not be worked through the photo voice in order to help them to define these topics easier. And the other one is how we plan to deal with cis male possible resistance to work on the topic, and if we should protect female students making separate groups. gender separate groups. This is an ethical issue that I have a lot of doubts with, because on one side I believe that it could be useful, on the other that it's limited the experience. So I have a lot of doubts, and I would like you to think and reflect with me around it. Going to the third step, we come back in the classrooms. You can remember that they have created the narrative, and they share them with their groups, and they make comments to each other narrative. So now we meet in synchron, and what we do is dedicate 1 hour in which I stay all the time with one of the three groups. So I stay 1 hour with one, 1 hour with the other, and 1 hour with the third one. And I help them in the process, in starting the process of categorization. First, obviously, we continue to debate a little bit on what they have wrote, what they have feel, what they have think on seeing the photonarrative of the other, and what the other have think of their own. But then we use with the Jamboree, we decided to use the post-it we have, the post-it, in order to label the different picture. This was a work that was done individually, but at the same time. So everybody can see what other people were putting on the different picture. I asked them to use a different color from each of them, so they can recognize their own label. They can label all the picture or just some of them. They could put more than one label on each picture. It was up to them, and it was just to make it was an experiment in order to make a merge category from their own feeling. Okay, actually it worked quite well, and then I explained them how they have to try to make sense of all what they have written, and try to understand which category were inside of them. The idea of category was a little bit complex for them, but after a while they understand that they can have different way of categorizing them, for example, for emotion, for action, or whatever they can find in the label. And I insist, they can group them, they can include the same photonarrative in different category if they believe that was useful. So I let them work on doing this topic. Okay, the task was to finish in the categorization, and then to prepare a video presentation with the main result of their categorization, to share not just with the people that have experienced the Photovoice, but also with the people that have experienced the self-narrative. That was in order to make other people know a little bit more about the technique. Okay. So some of the result of this third step, as I was already explaining, I think that the post-it tool was very useful to create emerging category. Nonetheless, I think that this work couldn't have been possible without supervision. We have to remember, in this case, we are with the first-year students, and even if they have worked for a semester all together, they were not so into methodology research experience, and also self-organization, I think. In this sense, before doing the video, they also asked me more tutorship in order to better understand what it means to create category and to define them better. It happened again that two groups work quite well. One probably a little bit more than the other, but they work quite well. Especially, it seems that they were starting really from themselves. And the third group, it seems that were more moved from doing the task than from themselves. Obviously, that was the problem that, or the difficulty that probably cheesemen felt a little bit like uncomfortable, because they felt like if they were spotted, even if nobody spotted them, but that was a problem, okay? The criticality of these steps, if they will be beneficiary to make previous exercise of categorization, and also letting more time for the activity that maybe it was a little bit short. So the first step was that within the small group, they have to prepare a video of 10 minutes in which they have to both reflect on the content, so on gender-related violence, starting from their own experience, so also explaining the category, and explaining how they learn more on the topic using this technique. And then there was a second part again on the reflexivity on the technique in itself, okay? This video, they have to prepare it, as I say, in the small group, and I insist that in ethical criteria, so that they have to share only what they want to share. It was not necessary to include the picture if they don't want to, but to start from them at least, or to describe them, to make it anonymously, obviously. And then they have to upload the video into the classroom for all the other students to see it. So the first step is what I call transference and difraccion. It takes around 4 hours, and it was done with the whole class. They have to do during the asynchronous section, they have to look at the video of other groups' presentation and prepare individually some reflexive questions on both on the process for creating the category by the other group, so if they don't understand how they have categorized the material, and on what kind of category were not clear for the people that was looking at the video. I put here 30 minutes, but it was just a general idea, okay? Then we move to a synchronous work in which we share all together these questions, these comments from one group to the other, in order to better understand the work that have been realized through the two techniques. After this sharing, we split up again in small groups, and what we do in order to make this diffraction is that each group have to work on what they have learned from people that have used the other techniques and have worked on a different topic. In fact, the topic were two. The people that would do the Photovoice was working on gender-related violence, and the people that do narrative was working on the gender construction during the school and the gender experience of discrimination during the schools here, okay? So people that have worked with gender-related violence have to make a representation of what they have learned on the gender construction during school time, and people that have worked on self-narrative have to make a representation of what they have learned on gender-related violence. This was a way to sharing and transfer and diffract the knowledge. So what they learn from each other, basically. So we have this representation. I put here a small one to visualize it. They were very different between them. And again, they have to share it in Jamboree, and we look during the class, and we both analyze the content and the way in which they represent it. So the different way and the different focus that the different groups have insisted on. So, which were the main results and criticality of this fourth and fifth step? I think that the user aid was a very good, idea because people of this age are quite interested in videos. So the video were quite good, not extremely artistic, but quite interesting. And I think they like to do it, and they like to share their experience through the video. At least that was the case again of two groups. The third group realized a video that was much more like a talk in the bar, again gender-related violence. They let the girl explain, the two girls of the group explain their experience and make comment like, ooh, oh, that's not admissible, oh, that's so bad, things like that, and they don't go further on the analysis of the category and of the experience realized. And nonetheless, the fifth step, the fact of the transference and the creation of the map category from other students' work was probably a too difficult work for them. I think they were quite poor, and sometimes they were not really representing what they've learned from the video, but what they already think about the topic. So they reproduce quite a lot of stereotype, and I don't know if it was something that I will use again, even if I think that the idea was very nice, the idea of trying to make it a transference, but probably it will need more time. Also, I think that having the option to make it online and sharing something online and making some presentation in person, or doing some part of the work in person, will be particularly useful in order to create a more holistic understanding and a more feeling between them. Not specifically for the work in the small group, but for the group, for the work in the whole group. That was quite a lot of people, and sometimes difficult online. So methodologically, the DOOPS is how to better transfer the knowledge produced to the whole class, and related with these elements of transference. If we are doing COIL, shall we include some parts that are all together online with people from other country, and some part that is transference and is in presence with their own class? This is one of the other questions I have in mind. So what I see as a sixth step, that I'm not sure we can consider as a sixth step, is the reflexive exercise on Photovoice as research tool that I give to them, and it was the only one that I really evaluate with a proper note, because I didn't want to evaluate the experience in itself. It seems to me that evaluate the experience of sharing their own feeling was not really something ethically very powerful. So I thought that it was better to make them realize this reflexive exercise on the tool. Okay, so I make them this question. Was still a group task, so they have to do with their own group. I make them this question, and the essay was quite bad. Nonetheless, is something that it normally happened to any experience I have tried to make students of this age and with this interest doing something on research methodology. So it's not typical of this essay or of this task, but is more general. I think it didn't work, and I think that the poor research methodological level of students may have been a key issue in this sense. Also, I find that I tried to doing something that was like working on starting from the same work, having different line and being able to work different tasks and different competence and different knowledge. But I feel like that students, I don't know if they were bored or it find difficult to separate them and tend to reproduce the same that they have done in the previous experience. So they don't go in deep in what you have asked them specifically. Anyhow, I'm talking much more general. I think that one of the key issues is if we introduce this, or we propose people to introduce in a mainstreaming way the PHV, the Photovoice experience to working on gender-related violence in their class, what we want to suggest them to do with evaluation, to relate them with an experience of evaluation or not. Because if there is nothing that we can evaluate, obviously it's difficult that teachers have so much time to dedicate to a task that is not being evaluated. But especially because here we have these Bologna things in which everything has to be evaluated. But on the other side, reducing this to a process of evaluation is complicated. So how can we balance the personal emancipation process with the evaluative logic of the university? This is my last big question. Thank you very much. And I hope we can have a lot of feedback on this and learn a lot from your experience.